Hey everybody, it's Taylor with Boydston Grove, and today we're going to do 5 different Christmas decoration projects that you can batch out for your next craft sale. Or to decorate your own home. Let's get into it. Our first project is super simple and quick. You'll need a piece of a 4x4. I recommend no shorter than 5 inches or it'll end up looking a little funny. I drilled a hole off center about 2 inches deep using a 7/8 inch Forstner bit. I marked the center of the 4x4 and made 2 45-degree cuts on both sides so it looked like a little house. I decided to batch out a bunch of these because I think they look better in groups. I picked up a 3/4 inch piece of copper pipe from the plumbing aisle in Home Depot. Marking it how long I wanted it to be, I cut it with a small hacksaw. I used my bench sander to smooth out the edge of the pipe and sand the little house. Then Christina applied a coat of Oldies oil. We had some leftover cork pads from some coasters we made, so Christina applied one to the bottom of each house and then hot glued the copper pipe in place. For this project, we're going to make a snowflake. This is an idea I got from a guy named Matthew Peach. He has a really cool channel and makes some really awesome projects, so make sure to check him out later. For my version of the snowflake, I'm going to make a few additions and a few adjustments. To make the snowflake, I used some pieces of old fence pickets. I cut a bunch of strips to 1 1/4 inch wide and then a bunch to 5/8 inches wide. I cut 3 1 1/4 inch pieces to 12 inches long. Then I set my miter saw to 50 degrees and cut more of the 1 1/4 inch pieces to 2 inches long, making little diamond shapes. You need 12 total for one snowflake. I cut the 5/8 inch pieces to 3 inches. Again, you'll need 12 per snowflake. Alright, here's where I made my first adjustment. I completed one snowflake according to Matthew's plans, stacking the 3 12-inch pieces on top of each other and using a screw to hold them together. One thing that I didn't care for was how thick it made the whole snowflake, and another thing was that because there's only one strip along the top, it made it really hard to attach some of these diamond pieces. There wasn't a whole lot to grip onto. My solution was to cut 2 of the 12-inch pieces in half and then cut 30-degree angles on the ends. I took Matthew's advice and made a little jig for the assembly. I made it from a piece of those EVA foam floor pads. It worked out great, especially for batching out a bunch of these snowflakes. Once the glue was dry, I painted the snowflakes with a flat white paint. Then Christina used some paint we picked up from the Oops rack at Home Depot and painted a few of the cut pieces to add a little contrast. hang our snowflakes, Christina painted some wooden craft beads, strung them onto some ribbon, and stapled it to the back of the snowflakes. This project is another quick and easy one. You'll need a piece of a 4x4 at least 6.5 inches long. I sliced the rounded corners off of mine, but you do you. I used 3 different Forstner bits in my drill press. A 2-inch, an 1 5/8, and an 1 1/4. I drilled all the way through the 4x4 on all 4 sides, slightly overlapping each hole. Then I drilled a hole in the top of the 4x4 using an 1 1/2 Forstner bit deep enough to fit a tea candle. I stained it using a white stain. And again, we used a cork pad for the bottom. For this project, we're going to be making a Christmas tree using some 1x4 select pine cutoffs. I set the bevel on my miter saw to 30 degrees and cut 5 pieces to 6 inches long, 1 piece to 6 3/4 inches long, and 1 piece to 4 inches long. Make sure that you're rotating your board each time so your bevels are opposite each other. Most people start assembly of these Christmas trees at the bottom, but I preferred starting at the top. This select pine comes pre-sanded, so I didn't even bother sanding the pieces before assembly. Once I reached the bottom, I could get my final measurement and then attach the 4-inch piece to the center as the base. I painted my trees in a few different colors with some satin spray paint. We picked up some battery-operated fairy lights at the Dollar Tree. I stapled the lights crisscross inside the tree and hot glued the battery pack to the back of the base. For our final project, I started by attaching a sacrificial fence to my miter saw. I used a piece of 4x4, 8 inches long. I used the fence to be able to clamp the 4x4 in place to keep my hand away from the blade since I was cutting such small pieces. I cut 3 different cubes, one at 3 inches, one at 2.5 inches, and one at 2 inches. I used my bench sander to knock down all the edges and corners, trying to give the blocks more of a hand-carved look. I marked the center of the blocks and drilled some holes for some dowels using a drill block to make sure that the holes stayed nice and straight. While waiting for the glue to dry, I used some 16 gauge picture hanging wire to make some little arms and spray painted them. I have a bunch of little wooden pegs from another project. I cut the end off so I could use it for the nose. You could also use a dowel. I drilled a recess for the nose and attached it with some hot glue. Then I did a little painting. After a few coats of clear matte finish, I drilled out holes for the arms and secured them using some hot glue. I picked up this little fleece blanket from Walmart for $3.99. I cut a piece of the fleece and hot glued it around the top for a hat and tied it off with some twine. Then I cut a strip for a little scarf and hot glued it in place. Alright, all 5 of our Christmas decoration projects are finished. I'm really happy with the end result of all of these. They came out really nice. As you can see, the lights that we picked up for the trees actually came with ribbon wrapped around them, which was a really nice touch. The snowmen ended up being a little bit more labor intensive than I originally intended, but I'm really happy with the end result. I'm not really sure which one's my favorite. I'm kind of leaning towards the snowman. Let me know in the comments below which one you like the best. And we work on a new project video every week, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can follow along with us. Thank you very much for watching, be safe, and have a great day.